Brothers of Braspective, man, what's happening?
What up?
It's good.
We back at it again. We back here on this late night on this Sunday, about to have another conversation for the people. Obviously, with everything going on in the world, I think it's only right that we talk about voting and the importance of voting to our community and things of that nature. So, with that being said, have y'all voted, and who you voting for?
Yeah, I already voted, man. I voted on Wednesday. I'm done. In and out, man. I gotta go vote early. I live in a neighborhood where my voting poll is literally right around the corner.
Yeah, I was able to knock mine out Thursday. You know, I look at what's kind of going on worldwide, and you see people waiting hours. Man, my process, I was in and out in 10 minutes. And kind of similar to you, I just did something in the neighborhood. It's a firehouse. That was a location, so I went to the firehouse and knocked it out. So I was able to get that done to get rid of the anxiety of doing it.
So I haven't voted yet. My day's coming up. We're in California, so it's either mail or walk in. I'm gonna walk in, but that's not until the 3rd. But my location is right around the corner from the house. Did my research to make sure that my name is on the ballot. I mean, not on the ballot, but able to vote.
Right.
That's the first thing you got to check to make sure you're able to vote. So I'm able to vote. My name's on the roster. So November 3rd, I walk in there and make my decision. I'm more than likely going. You said who we vote for? Or?
I mean, if you want to go ahead and say it, I mean, I would say mine. I mean, to be honest with you,
I missed that part.
I can get into it. You know, I'm voting for your boy Biden. I thought about voting for Trump, but I changed my mind. Nah, I didn't think about that. But nah, man, I like some of the stuff, man, that Biden got going for himself, man. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and give him some support. I like the fact that he is looking at raising minimum wage. I think that's a good thing. I think he's looking at bringing it up to $15 or so an hour. Man, I think that's good, because if you look nationally, I think minimum wage is like $7.50, and that hasn't changed since the early 2000s. So I think that's a good thing. He's looking at getting rid of national minimums for sentences. So kind of reducing to where there's no minimum requirement for charges and things of that nature, which is something that's important. Getting rid of private prisons. Again, we all know the issue with private prisons. They all, they got to meet a quota. So now they got to go find people to throw in those prisons, and they damn sure ain't going to the suburbs for that. So he got a couple other things, man, that I like about, what he's trying to do. And for me, I'm always looking for people who are looking to take care of the little people. Those are people I ride with.
Yeah, I haven't voted yet, but when it's my time, I'll go in there and I'll walk in and vote. I do like to take my son with me to do stuff like that, just so he can get in a routine of seeing, it's important to vote, and it's something that we should do. I mean, I think as far as voting goes and who we're voting for, I mean, I know who I'm voting for, but I don't want nobody, people. I'll leave my stuff to myself.
Hey, it's rude to ask, but I'm gonna ask her. I'm gonna ask people. I want to know.
So I'm gonna say this. Yeah, I'm voting for Joe Biden. I like I work in education, so I like his platform for education and making the first 2 years free for students. He's also looking at some things in regards to healthcare, because he was with Obama when he was president, and then on top of that, he's looking at really making some changes to climate change. So, I mean, these are some things that's kind of important to me, because it surrounds what I do and some of my interests. But on top of that, I'm not gonna lie, we know that there's certain parties that are gonna vote regardless of who is their candidate. So if you kind of vote outside of that, you're almost giving a vote to that party. So it's something to be aware of, because that's what happened with the Clinton and everything. People that didn't vote, you actually did vote for Trump. And if you did vote outside of those two, your vote was going to Trump, because some people in certain parties won't change regardless. So it's just something to be aware of.
Yeah, that's the important part, is people definitely got to vote in general. We see a lot of people not voting and things like that, or, they were only voting because it was Obama, and, they was like, first black president, so we got to vote. Man, okay, get your butts back out there and start voting again. Stay informed about policies and procedures. That's a very, very important part too, is people being aware of the policies and procedures, the props that are out there and things like that. People don't always understand the propositions or what's going on. And then they'll be like, man, how come all this changed? It'd be like, didn't your dumb self vote for that? Like, I mean, we got to make sure that people are aware of the propositions that are out there for sure.
I mean, and like you said, just being aware of the propositions, but also making sure that they're not just voting in the primary elections, you know, which are the presidential, but they're also voting in the general elections. You know, they're getting their senators and their congressmen and their attorney generals, state attorney generals, and things of that nature, as well as on the city level, which in some cases is going to be non-federal positions like your municipal elections. You know, for your judges and things of that nature, your sheriff, things like that, man. That stuff is important as well. We need to make sure we're voting not just in the presidential election, but in any election, anything that's going out here. They make sure you vote, even if it's left Twix versus right Twix. Make sure you vote.
Yeah, local voting to me, I feel like is damn near more important than the presidential vote, because that affects you like in your neighborhood. So the school district, you vote for the people that's on the school board. You vote for the person that's prosecuting you when you go to court, or you know your family go to court. Like the one talked about municipalities. So all of those things are locally voted on. Like we heard a lot of flack for people talking about Kamala when she was in San Francisco. But Kamala, that position that she got, it was a voted position. She was just good at her job. Like if y'all didn't really want her in there, y'all should have voted. But she was really good at her job. Her prosecution rate was really high. She was doing her job. But that was an elected position. So if you got a problem, you have to go vote locally as well as for the president. And then I ain't like that. I voted for Biden, bro. I ain't what Donald doing right now. If you got to think about what you got to do, then you might have to want to do something different. But it's no thought. I don't have to watch I don't even have to watch the debates to know who I'm gonna vote for at this point, because what I've seen thus far in these last 4 years, ain't no question.
Right, and I think that's another thing too. Just on the Kamala thing, I got support for her in general. I feel like a lot of people came out early and attacked her for her position or what they felt her position was, but she was just a worker at the end of the day. First, she's elected in that position, then she's a worker. It wasn't like she was out here just banging people out on the criminal justice side because that's what she was doing. She actually was doing what was implemented, what was told for her to do. It wasn't like she just found joy in incarcerating Black people or over prosecuting people and things like that. There was a system put in place and she was the head of that system. If you want to be mad at somebody, be mad at all the regular people that worked under her who just chose to prosecute like that to meet the quota and the standards that were set by her boss's boss. So, I definitely didn't like a lot of the flack that she took.
But those positions are voted on too, though, Taff.
Exactly. I was going to say those things are all voted. All that's voted.
Are voted on, whether it's her or her manager or whoever. If it's the DA, it's the judge, it's the whatever. All that is voted on.
Right.
No, I get that, but I'm saying when we're talking about just DAs and different things like that and how they're going about prosecuting certain cases, all of these DAs that work in the system are not necessarily elected people. They're people that apply for a job and get a job, but they are meeting the standards and the quotas that are set in front of them. I mean, it's just like me. I come to work. There's certain things that I'm going to implement a lot harder than others because of the simple fact that they've been told to me that they're important or they're a problem. So when you have people that are DAs that are just regular, just prosecuting cases and things like that, your public defenders, they're going after certain things based on criteria that was set above their head. And that's all I'm saying in her case is that elected or not, she didn't create that criteria. She implemented what was put in front of her or what she was told to do. And then that got disseminated down to the ranks.
But here's the issue though, Taff. I think, unfortunately, sometimes in our community, we look for reasons to cancel people. And I think, when it's all said and done, regardless of what a person has done in their past, as you get older and you get more information, you grow. And as you grow, you may say, hey, I did something back in 1993, 95, 96 that I wouldn't do anymore. I think, just kind of watching Biden the other day, because everybody's talking about the crime bill, all the Black people. And I understand the destruction of the crime bill and what it had on our community, for sure. Not to say that we want to negate that, but I do think that, like he said, if there was a lot of unintended consequences of that bill, on a federal level, if it was just something that was on a federal level, then it would have been a lot easier to regulate. But what people don't understand is these laws, a lot of times, you may have a federal law, but then the federal government still gives states and local governments the opportunity to kind of implement the law carry out the law in the way and how they choose, and that's what people don't understand. So, and he said, look, had he known the unintended consequences, he wouldn't have done it. And people could say that's politics, but at the end of the day, we're not the same person we were 15 years ago. Hell, we're not the same person we were yesterday. So I think sometimes we hold people to things that they did 10, 15, 20 years ago that with more information, they may do something better.
Agreed. Yeah, but even with any of those bills, I mean, I don't care what bill, there's never been a solid, that bill perfect. Is completely work for anybody. Even when you have bills,
going to be now.
Yeah, even if you have bills like, hey, we're gonna like, what was one that was big last before the election? I know in California, CalTrans was looking to get a little bit more money to a system where all the fires was taking place. But then what they didn't say on the other hand is that, it's going to tax the Californians more money to allow them to fight the fires. So people was like, yeah, we want you to fight the fires, but we didn't know we was going to get hit that hard. So at the same time, I don't think a bill is ever created where it's going to 100% please everybody. And I think you just got to read through the bills to understand which parts you're willing to accept and which part you're like, hey, that's part of the system.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes it's like for the greater good, and I think some people, the greater good is not their interest; it's like self. A lot of people do that, and I feel like this time around with Donald, it was like, I'm just trying to protect my ends. You know what I'm saying? In the end, it fucks us all up. Like we all lost, like dealing with this dude. So of course you're gonna save when your taxes here and there, whatever. But we see what he pays $750 in taxes. All of us on here that paid 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times than what he paid in taxes. He makes that much more than us. So it's not about I'm gonna save my little piece. It's about getting it right. But if we talk about getting it right, that's more important than trying to save a dollar here and there.
But you start to see how things break down too. We all have a person that we know who is a real estate tycoon at this point, and he's definitely not. Sometimes I think we get our party affiliations by our race. This person would be the implicit bias of what people think a hood dude is, and he'll vote for Trump all day, every day, because when his taxes break down and you start talking about how his money is went, he has a vested interest in Donald Trump's interest because of the way his money gets made. So, it goes different ways. We could stir the pot a lot on these topics. I think some people that are in positions that have money and things, I see y'all itching. Y'all ready now.
Yeah, because
we just talked about self, bro. You talking about one individual.
Right. No, wait. Not even on top of that.
I don't know if it's just one individual, though.
People gonna make their money the way they make their money. I don't think nobody's really changed the way in which they approach their jobs, depending on who the president was. I think people are gonna, of course, they may vote because the president may say something that steers them that way. But regardless of who's set in the seat, a lot of people's lives don't really change drastically. No. Like when we talk about a lot of this, when you talk about inner cities, I don't care what president said, no seats. Those inner cities ain't really changed that much. So it's not really like, hey, I got to vote this way because of my money, or I got to do this because of my money. Nah, you voting on what you actually believe in that person could possibly do. They're not probably going to do as much as we want, but you're voting to hope that they're going to make the changes that you're looking to see. So I don't know about, hey, I got to vote because of how the president made his money before me. I don't know if that works.
Okay. Just to start a pot real quick, but people do vote because they're black, like for certain people. Like I'm going to just say right now what I don't know. I can't speak for the white party because I'm not white, but I will speak for what I feel when it comes to the black party. I feel like the black party will vote for the Democrats because they feel like that's what you do as a black person. Now, I'm not here to say that's wrong or right, but I don't know. I think that those things do come to play. I think if we really had some conversations with a lot of different people that are going out there to vote, they'd be like, yeah, I voted, but they also vote Democrat because they're black. They don't know nothing about what's going on out there. They voting because they're black. I do feel that happens sometimes.
I think that, naturally black people are empathetic, and as a result, we can understand people's hurting so look, I always tell people I don't mind paying a little bit in tax if that means somebody who's struggling is going to be able to not struggle anymore, right? If you telling me I got to pay a little bit more in tax, so the national minimum wage can go up to $15, then I'm willing to pay that a little more in tax. You know what I'm saying? Again, not to say that I want to, but I'm saying that, you know, that's how it is. You can't really grow or create change if everybody trying to hold on to their money. Somebody got to spend some money, and we seem to in this country don't want to tax the rich, right?
Yeah.
Poor people got something against these little people in the backwoods of Mississippi, Alabama, Texas, all these places where they out here still voting to make sure rich people stay rich. I would never get it. You know what I'm saying? I would never get it. But one of the issues is everybody is thinking about self. They're very selfish. And as a country, as America, we have to be selfless because we're only as strong as our weakest link. And if people are worried about, okay, well, they're only doing these voter suppression laws and things like that to attack black people and poor people, okay, what happens when all the black people and all the poor people can't vote? Now they're going to start attacking another group of people. And that's what people don't understand. Like, okay, once you eliminate this group, you still got to find another group to get rid of. So it's really about recognizing that. Here's the thing. It's not really about who you vote for. It's really about just voting. I think that as black people, we got to make sure we're just voting. I remember my first time voting. It was in the, I want to say the 2004 election. 04. Yeah, 04. That was Al Gore, right? Yeah. Al Gore versus Clinton. I mean, not Clinton, Bush. And I remember being on the college campus at Langston, you know, being in the line, going into the library and voting, man, it felt good. And the kind of the movement and the push around that was a good thing. But I think as people of color, man, we just need to learn how to vote in general.
So, and I was in how they advertise to certain groups, like the reason why, to go back on the, you know, black people tend to vote Democratic, because that's the group that tends to say, hey, we want to appeal to the black audience. So I'm saying if the Republican Party really adopted some of the things that the Democratic Party do, you never know. It makes, like, if Kamala Harris was tapped by a different, I don't know about Trump, but a different Republican president at the time, and she would have been like, you know what, I could ride with you because I like what you stand for. But then all the black people go, oh, I may vote Republican now because they're appeasing me. So right now the black vote is big.
Say that again. Listen. Not to cut you off, I tell black people all the time, like, we just all need to go and vote Republican, right? Because all right, let's keep it real. Republicans, they're going to do whatever to win. They're going to break the laws. They're going to do something unethical. You know what I'm saying? They're going to pillage a visit. They have no morals. Their moral is winning. They're going to win at all costs, right? Where on the Democratic side, sometimes everybody's trying to be kumbaya. They don't want to do anything wrong. Look, this is, hey, you can't be bringing a knife to a gunfight. And so if all black people decided to go vote Republican, now you're going to find that Republican who was a little more progressive, who was going to do the things needed to get the black vote, and now has the support, you know, on the heel in order to get laws passed. Because again, I'm not necessarily saying that the Democrats can't do it. Obviously, when you look at the numbers, you know, there are more jobs. There are more money. The economy is better when there's a Democrat in the home. I mean, people really look at the data when the Democrat is in office. But I'm saying the Republicans right now is doing whatever. Voter suppression, all that. When Obama won again in 2012, what they did in 2013 is they said, you know what, states, y'all can do whatever y'all need to do in regards to, you know, changing the laws for voting. So that's when voter ID stuff came back around, because they said, we can't be having these black people win.
Voter suppression, bro. Yeah, voter suppression.
Have any of y'all ever voted Republican?
Say what?
Have any of y'all ever voted Republican?
No.
So I'm not gonna lie. Locally, I have. Like, there's been something that a Republican said locally that I was like, ooh, he may be onto something in regards to our housing community within my local area, because that's what he was really trying to improve. He's trying to improve, you know, housing and economy and some of the school stuff within the local area. Now, would I have voted in the federal, you know, on a larger stage? No, but locally, yeah, I have.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and it's because of what they said, though. It's because of what they stood for. And I was like, oh, I could ride with you locally here with that. So, and I wanted to piggyback off what DeJuan just said, man. That voter suppression is big. I wanted to make sure that we got that out there. I mean, there's too many to go over, but the ones that I really wanted people to understand is that the reducing the poll locations, man, make sure you know where your poll's at, because you're gonna be waiting forever, like DeJuan was mentioning. And then also, if you've had any kind of criminal background, that you still can vote. Like there is, depending on what your criminal background is, you can't say I'm not able to vote. You can still go vote and figure out or talk to your local voting agencies to tell you.
Here in Texas, if you're a felon and you off what we call off papers, you good to vote. Or if you got pardoned or something like that, you can vote. So when you're done with everything you have to do, you can vote. It's instant. Like as soon as you're done with all your stuff, you got the right to vote.
Right.
Also, make sure that you are putting your ballots, if you're doing the mail-in ballot, in legitimate mail-in ballot locations. There was just a story on the news last week in California. We had a whole bunch of fake mail-in ballot locations popping up, and I mean, there wasn't, somebody got on the news and told people to stop doing it, but the whole point was that it was done at that point. It wasn't no real enforcement behind it. I didn't see any real local or law enforcement doing anything to enforce it. I'm sure at some point they got taken down, but please make sure that if you're doing the mail-in voting, that you are putting your stuff in a real legitimate ballot. That is real important.
I think that's part of it. People don't understand. Today or this year would be 150 years since the 15th Amendment was passed, giving people of color the right, or Black people,
1870,
the right to vote. But here we are, 150 years later, and we still having issues. But the reality is, they did voter suppression with that, right? You had literacy tests, you had poll tax, right? You had the brown paper bag, you had all that stuff, that came into play. It wasn't even until after the civil rights movement and the voter rights movement that you started to see it, just kind of this global understanding that people who are born here and citizens have the right to vote. So it's not like we've been voting forever, but as a number, we have to vote. 2012, for the first time per capita, more people voted, or higher percentage of voters who were eligible to vote of Black people that were then white. So 2012, we came out to make sure that Obama got reelected. There was a lot of us who voted. And then as we see that number fail when Trump, got up for 2016, it dropped. It dropped from 66.6%, right, of Black people voting, 2/3 of Black people voting who were eligible to vote. And then it dropped, and that 59.6 to 6.6, we talking about a couple million people there. So we want to make sure that as Black people, we're getting out voting, because what I always say, you can't complain if you ain't vote. You better not say nothing if you ain't vote. Don't say nothing to me about Trump doing nothing.
And I know a lot of people are like, man, well, why would I vote when my vote doesn't matter? Well, I mean, you go to work and you sit at the table and you try to voice your opinion all the time. And sometimes you're like, man, sitting at this work table, my voice isn't being heard, but you keep on going back, right?
Right.
So it's about making your contribution. So you got to still go vote regardless, because where else can you at least affect a little bit of change? So if you're not actually going out there and doing it, you at least got to vote, and then even follow that vote. So
it's all right, man. It's all right. People die for this.
People die for us. Man, I was just about to say, man, John Lewis just died this year, and the importance of the Black man and woman voting is really important. Like DeJuan said, and we got the right to vote in 1870, but we wasn't really voting until 1965. So how many people had died for that particular right, the civil rights movement. So just I wouldn't even say to honor your ancestors, but to see progression in this country is really important for us to vote as a people, and not to be like, oh, my vote doesn't count. It does count.
It does count.
And matter of factly, especially with locally, your voting counts more because it's only so many people in your community.
Yeah.
It ain't like it's 15 million people. You don't live in a community with 15 million people. You live in a community, whatever your population is, your vote really, really counts locally.
Right. Especially when you start talking about, like you said, just the right to vote and our ancestors and things like that. And also teaching your kids. I mean, your kids need to know the importance of voting too, or your nieces or your nephews or little or young people watching you and things like that, because it brings me into a segue, a question, my wife said we should pose on that show is, if you ain't teaching your kids like that, they're think they should vote for Kanye. Do y'all think Kanye even caused a distraction in the voting?
Nah, he didn't. We talked about that already. No, but I was gonna say another thing is, so as men, right, and here we all had to do selective services, right? Y'all remember that when you turn 18?
Mm-hmm. I do remember.
Selective services, right? It should be mandatory that anybody that is 18 or turning 18 in this country, you are mandatory. Go register to vote. So as men, we had to do it because of selective service military. When you turn 18, it should be mandatory for you to go vote. And then it's a celebration. Like in your family, it's dinner time. You know, I don't want to know who you're going to vote for, but you got the right to vote. Like it's an important thing. We can sit at the table. We can go over the ballots, talk. We can do all the other stuff because it's just like, it wouldn't say it's just as important as, picking a college or something. You know, it should be that exciting. When you turn 18, that's a great accomplishment. It's just you're right when you turn 18.
That's a good point. Culturally, make it a thing that is something that you look forward to. Like, I guess, you know, if you're a part of the Jewish community, when you turn 15, you look forward to your bar mitzvah, right? And, you know, most communities, you look forward to being 16, you get your driver's license. 21, so you can go, you know, to the strip club or to the club, right? I think the realities are it should be when you turn 18, you have the opportunity to go vote with your parents. Now, you look forward to that because now you get to sit at the big boy table, right? Now you have an opinion, and your opinion actually matters on a ballot in the grand scheme of things. And I think that, you know, if they make it mandatory, then in our families, we should make it mandatory. Tab mentioned that he takes little TJ with him to vote. And when I did my voting in 2016, I took Daniel with me. He was 2. You know, we was in line for like 10, 15 minutes. He waited. He was like, oh, that's so cute and adorable. I was waiting for them to tell me I couldn't take my son in there, but they didn't make no deal about it. But yeah, I was able to, you know, take him with me to vote. You know, this year I wasn't able to because I did it while he was at school, but making sure that I do that in future years, even on the local elections, have him there with me. So it's something that finally he gets to push the button and pick the person that he wants. You know, kids like pushing buttons. So you make it a big thing, they'll do it.
So just like all 4 of us, I think we're gearing our families to understand a college going culture, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's something that doesn't happen in the Black community. We don't have a college going culture. Like the Caucasian families, you know, you go to college and that's all they talk about. So that's something that's just ingrained in them. And so us having, you know, children now, we're saying you got to go to college. We also say you got to vote too. Like we got to. And I'm echoing or dittoing everything you guys are saying is that we have to really be the ones to say, look, this is just how we function in society. We have a college going culture. We do vote. We do participate to improve our communities. And I think if everybody took that stance, you probably see a lot more changes in a lot of things that's going on, especially like you said, it's been over 100 years and we still in these situations. And I said this in our first podcast is that our lives aren't valued at the same rate as others. So we have to make sure that we are relevant and present. So we have to make those changes.
You know, that's it. I mean, we out here protesting, you know, Black Lives Matter. And yes, they do. But we need to make sure we're voting too, because that's the way you show Black Lives Matter. You know, if you have 66.6% of African Americans who voted in 2012, you know, we get that of people who are eligible. We get that number up in the 80s. Now, yeah, Black lives really matter because those politicians recognize that, again, as Black people, we are not we don't engage in monolithic thinking. We are not monolithic thinkers. We don't all think the same. But I also think if you want to keep it real, kind of like on my extreme as saying that Black people should just go be Republicans, and then at least we'll get somebody in there going to do the slimy, dirty work to at least make sure some of our stuff's taken care of. If we would have got reparations a long time ago. If Black people voted Republican, right? If we voted with the criminals, right? But on another note, I would say that if we as Black people really had 10 or 20 agenda items from our community that we would collectively came together and say, this is our needs, and we're not supporting anybody who are not willing to meet these needs. Because what happens is, oh, no, I don't support that. I don't support that. I support the legalization of marijuana. I don't smoke weed, but I support it. You know why? Because that means there's less Black men going to jail for weed. So again, too often in our community, you know, we want to be the contrarian. You know, we don't want to be, oh, I don't support that. No, man, you don't have to support everything somebody do. You don't support 80% of the things your kids do, but you think you need to support 80% or 100% of something a stranger does. So I think we need to get out of our mind about that absolutist, perfectionist. There is no perfect candidate. There is no candidate that you're going to agree with everything they do. But historically, if they're doing things to kind of help your community, then I think that's a good position to get behind, because that's what people are doing for Trump. They don't care what Trump do. He supports
but they ride for it no matter what.
He supports their suppressive, racist beliefs. So they support him. Like that woman said, if he shot somebody dead in the middle of Times Square, she would still vote for him. Trump talking about going around grabbing people by the pussies. They still vote for him. Trump broke, trying to lead this country, still broke. 450 to somebody, which I think is the Russians, and they still vote for him. They don't care. All that patriotism and none of that really matters. All they see is this person supports our beliefs and we vote for him. And I think as Black people, we need to start taking some of those extreme stands as well.
Damn, bro.
That's real. No, that ain't true.
Yeah. When he started running, the way that he even got into office and the things he did in general, we knew what kind of guy you were getting into that office. He was a television show host. Like the way in which he carried himself is who he is as a president. My dude didn't change. So I'm not surprised of the actions he's taken or the things he's done. I don't think anybody is, but like the one saying, there's people that stand right behind him. And if we don't vote, those people are going to still vote for him no matter what. And I'll add, the Democratic Party got a little bit of a hurdle to overcome, because there's a lot of men that are probably Democrats, and a Republican is like, wait a minute. So if we vote for Joe Biden and then say something happened to Joe Biden, we're going to get Ms. Harris in there. They may not vote that way just because they're like, we don't want no woman to represent us. So that's another.
They better get past that. They mamas represent them.
Right.
Every man came from a woman, man. If they don't get past that, some of the biggest leaders in our households are the women, our grandmothers, our aunties.
But what I'm saying is that's why we do need to vote, because people are going to not vote just because of those stupid things that they haven't got passed.
But that's some bullshit in general. All these single Black mothers that we got out here raising these men, not even just single Black mothers. I'm sure it happens in the brown community. Hell, I'm sure it happens in the white community as well too. If your parents break up, more than likely you're gonna end up living with your mom. And because the divorce rate is so damn high, a lot of y'all out of that 50 or 60% we're at in the divorce rate right now, or just in the baby mama and baby daddy relationship, you probably lived with your mom. So whoever out there preaching that stupid ass shit about, if something happened to Biden, we gonna get a woman. That's all you left with at the end of the day. Who you want to sleep in the bed with at the end of the night if you're a man?
We're going to skip over that, brother Bradley, because there are some men out here who love men, and we like their views as well. We appreciate you love who you love, right? Just love who you love.
I'm gonna circle back to the original point. We need to vote because there's some ignorant people out there that's not gonna make the educated vote, because they're gonna look at a candidate and go, wait a minute, there's a woman there, can't do it, and she Black, can't do it. So we really gotta make sure we get out there.
I deleted some people on Facebook because of the same views. But what I tell people is, I don't care who you vote for. Vote. You do the research for yourself. And you're like, I like that. All right, cool. Bam, 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 bam. And if that person checks off the stuff that you like, then do it. I don't care who you vote for. I say go vote.
A good way to check your bias is this. Like I told, I mentioned, me and Pete both mentioned, we voted Republican before on local elections. There are some things that Trump, has proposed that I'm for. I'm with it. Like, okay, that sounds like a plan. But on the grand scheme of things, what he or his believers at least believe he represents, I'm not for that. So I don't know, what I'm saying, because dude ain't never came out and really said he don't support these things that the people believe he supports. So because of that, I can't vote against anything that's anti-Black. I can't vote against anything that's anti-me. Yeah. I wouldn't be voting in the favor of my community, my people, my brother, sister, cousins, nephews, uncles, and the kids around. So again, you have to make sure that you are aware of that. But again, to check your bias, look, if you 100% support somebody, we got a problem. And if there's a person who's out here and you don't agree with nothing they say, you probably got a problem as well. Make sure you're not just out here just kind of allowing yourself to be led, because you're blind, just out here blind following people. Get information, read, look up some policies, get an understanding of what people's going on. I think that as a country, we need to make voting a little easier. P, you mentioned that people are filling out these ballots and they're voting for proposition this, proposition that, and they don't necessarily know what it is. They need to make sure that language is as clear as possible.
No,
as a therapist, when I give somebody
really hard. My bad, Dwan. We from California, and as I got to adulthood, and they sent the fucking packet, and I was like, "What?" You got to literally read it because it's like a true or false. So you know how tricky a true or false question is. It's kind of like that, like a true or false. Like it's some good and some bad to it. You got to.
It reads if you are in the positive or pro of this, then this is not happening. You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm in the positive. Like y'all saying, even for us, trying to get through that information is like, bro, I've made some propositions for hella long. Like, what? Okay, red equals blue, and blue is green, but the rabbit goes in between.
You know, they got the thing. So as a therapist, when I do a mental health diagnosis or a write-up, I have to use simple language. I got to keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. You have to make sure that everyone has the ability, or someone who is not as educated has the ability to understand what you're talking about. I can't use all these big words and all these clinical and technical language in a write-up because people are not understanding that. The same thing needs to apply when we talk about these elections and stuff like that. They need to make sure that they're saying that this, hey, if we cut here, it's going to take money away from here and it's going to go to this. All that other stuff, man, that they're using just to confuse people. I think another thing we need to do too is they need to make sure they have report cards on politicians. Each politician should have a report card on the things that they voted for. It should be everything. Like when you make a vote, it should be, I voted for this. So people can go and look and literally see who voted for what. Now, again, they can, but they got to go through the whole process of looking up everything. No, it needs to be I go to Joe Biden's website because he's a public figure. He has his own website, and it shows me a chronological order in the history of everything he has voted for, everything he has supported. Then I can really make an educated decision because everything is in one single place. I don't understand as people why we haven't pushed for something like that. But the problem in this country is 90% of Americans can want that. But if the politicians, the people in Congress, the people in the House of Representatives, the people on the state level, if they don't want it, they'll never let the policy make it to the House to be voted on. Because, again, it's something that puts a microscope on them. And I think that's the issue. The beliefs of the American people are not being represented, with these rules and guidelines.
Trump didn't even win the last election with the popular vote. If we're going off how many people actually voted for Hillary won, bro. They played the electoral.
That whole Electoral College thing.
Electoral College
too.
Yeah.
Man, how people that live in
Texas and California.
How people that live in Montana got more power than the people that live in California?
Man.
Yeah, by capita too. Like our state has more people in various states, but our Electoral College is like 2.
Look, it's more people in Manhattan than in North and South Dakota combined.
And they got more Electoral College votes.
That's crazy.
But like you said, though, we already know that those things are set up and basically rigged for success. We just need to have better strategies. Even the people that are involved in these elections, they got to have better strategies about taking areas like that over because they already know that the bullshit is going to come with the votes. It's really hard to do because, obviously it's easier said than done. But, some of the rules, like you said, Dewan, maybe we would just benefit if we had a dirty player in there. We need a Dennis Rodman on the Republican side. That's what we need. Somebody
on the Democrat side.
Either side.
Yeah. We ain't going to get one on that side, though. Historically, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. I don't even think that's what the Democratic Party, that's what we stand for in general. So I think that we're going to need to see some of the Dennis Rodmans come on that side. Some people that are allies, like just neutral. I know we have a party affiliations and things like that, but it would be nice to have someone that actually looks at things from both sides of the coin and just decides what's for the greater good.
You get the liberals.
That's where you get the liberals from.
Let's look at
the liberals is that they at this
let's
point.
Look at basketball, right? The Lakers had a Shaq. He'll go in there and hit somebody hard. The Pistons, they had your boy with the fro. You know what I'm saying? Miami, we had you know what I'm saying? The Warriors, they got Draymond. Everybody, every champion got somebody that's gonna go in there and do the dirty work, right? For the greater good of the team. Man, we need a dirty work guy, our guys, our group that's gonna go in there.
Our girl.
Girl.
Gala girl. Somebody's gonna go in there and do the dirty work, and it's gonna tell you, hey, if you vote for me, I'm gonna give you $3 million. And then once they secure the vote, they don't do it, right? You know what I'm saying? Because that's what the Republicans do. They promise you these things, and then they don't do it, and they will lie, manipulate. Look, Trump got this whole thing making everybody believe everything is fake. He can literally say something, and then he'll say, "Oh, that's video edited. I didn't say that." Like, and these people like, "Yeah, it's fake. It's video edited." Like, you know what I'm saying? Again, a bunch of shit.
But that's politics in general, though. I think that both sides do that fake lie to us. I mean, I'm gonna go back. The inner cities are still the inner cities from 1988 to now. It ain't changed.
Democrats lie too.
I would even say sometimes it's not necessarily that everybody lying. I think a place will have a certain narrative that gets created, and then everybody jumps on board like that same narrative affects them, right? Like sometimes people are inheriting the agendas and problems of other people that don't necessarily affect them or their community, and then they miss the whole ball. They miss everything out of that. You know, even like with Kamala, that's what I was gonna say. A prime example of her is if she would have been Donald Trump's VP, they would have said, and this is real shit, they would have been like, you know what, with all this defund the police shit going on right now, at least back in her day, she was tough on crime. We had some type of like, you know, order when she was in office, you know, but the fact that she's with this party is, oh, she's with the bullshit. She ain't down with that. She's this, she's that. It's a smut campaign. I guarantee you, if she was running with the Republican Party, it would be back in her day. She was tough on crime. Look at her statistics. They would have.
Tab, them law and order people. That's BS, bro. That don't exist. If you think about all the laws and all the rules that some of these Republicans are doing with the insider trading and you know what I'm saying, and the money laundering and all these things that they're doing, if we were about law and order, those people would be in jail. But what doesn't happen is they don't go to jail because it's not about law and order. It's only a law and order when it affects Black people. Here's brown people.
Here's the easiest way to talk about law and order. I don't know about all other states, but I know in California, we are regularly waiting on a budget to be passed. All the time. We're always like, hey, mostly for my job, we're like, ooh, are they passing the educational budget? Because we got to make sure we use this money the right way.
Yeah, we need this.
Still, they will prolong it, but yet they will still get that check. They still getting their check. So they like, well, we can pass that budget later. I'm only using the budget as an example. So I'm saying that to say, recently, Governor Brown is like, you know what? Y'all not going to get y'all money if y'all don't pass these bills or get things done. So within the next go around, budgets came out. They're like, oh, roll over. We'll deal with it later. But at least they're like, let's roll over because we need to get our checks. So I'm going back to what you're saying. If it's law and order, if it ain't touching their pockets, they like, oh, snap, we going to do what we want to do. And we elected officials, and we're not elected for 4 years. We stay in here until we decide to leave. So that's another thing to look at. Yeah, so that's another thing we look at. But at the end of the day, it ain't no law and order if you ain't telling them like, hey, this is how you're going to be effective if you don't make a change. So it's a bad structure in general. And again, it goes back to it's just how the structure was created. And that's something that we as a people need to look at.
Yeah, it's working the way they created it. That's why we got to go damn vote. We got to go vote.
So that's gonna be my walk away and mic drop. Please just go vote in some type of manner, mail it in, walk it in, do something. But if you want another 4 years and plus, and I don't even think in the next 4 years, I'm thinking when my sons get older, whatever laws is going on now, that's gonna affect them. Because a lot of times they're like Obamacare was how long ago, and we still barely getting it rolled out right. So imagine as your kids get older, they're gonna still be affecting the decisions we make now.
Yeah.
About 10 to 12 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So, y'all go ahead and, man, let the viewers know, man, give them some parting ways and wishes and things of that nature, as Pete suggested.
Yeah, like I said, man, just go vote. Locally, it's really important as well, because, like we talked about, man, that's your sheriff, that's your school district board, that's all your municipalities. So do that. It's really important. Also, just subscribe to the Braspective YouTube page. Follow us, like it, do all that stuff. We appreciate y'all.
So let me say 1, yes, please continue to follow us and like us. 2, man, make sure your name's on that roster. Look up where your polling area is. And if you're going to mail it in early as soon as possible. Make sure you put a stamp on it, and you can track it online so you know if your ballot went in.
Yeah, definitely. I was saying vote. Like they said, don't matter who you vote for somebody. Pay attention to what you're voting for. Make sure you put your ballots in the right places. And that's all the the important things that we're talking about here today. Just get out there and vote. Let's see a good voter turnout. I'm always plugging people. So once again, shout out to Tish from her mobile bar service. I'm here to shake shit up. You guys check her out on Instagram at I'm here to shake shit up. Mobile bar service for you, your people, your parties. Check her out.
That's what's up. Hey, if you're in the Frisco area, go get you some Cookie Society. It's amazing. Google it. If you live in Dallas or Dallas Frisco area, look up Cookie Society. Great cookies. I should have had something to eat on the air so I could show you guys how good these cookies are. But
them cookies smacking. The one I brought a box over here.
Hey, that's on the people.
They're expensive, but them joints like the size of my head, bro. You gotta go in on them.
Right. Hey, all the people too. Like we said, we love supporting businesses and people with the right things trying to do something. We see you guys continue to DM us in our personal IGs, the Braspective IG. If you got something going and you need some love, let us know. People are watching, people are paying attention, and as we get put on, we trying to put you on.
We will. Again, as my brothers have expressed, vote. If you have the opportunity, please vote early, just because you never know what you may run into, what problems you may run into if you try to wait to the last day, if they got your information wrong in the system. If that's not correct, then your vote doesn't count. Another way too, especially if you do a mail-in, so you can look and track and make sure that they got your ballot and that it was counted. So vote early. The good thing is, I know here in Texas particularly, it used to be that you had to only go vote at your, the specific location that they have for you. Now, as long as you go to anywhere in your county, you good. So, that makes a whole difference. Now, just find that place within your community that may be a little smaller place, not these mega centers. Mega centers there's nothing wrong with mega center as well, but I know the church that Jeff and I attend, Friendship West, they had a large turnout on the first day. But just go somewhere, go out and vote. Don't care who you vote for, man. We got friends on both sides. I got friends that are Democrats, Republicans, as well as independent. So go do your thing. Follow us at Braspective. Please like, share, subscribe. We trying to keep the content coming for you guys. If you guys have any suggestions or ideas or things you want to talk about, we talk about real stuff as well as ratchet. So if you got some ratchet topics that you feel like we want to talk about, let us know so we can prepare our wives, and we're gonna say some ratchet stuff first.
Yeah, we need. What you call it, Dewan? Trigger alarms or trigger
warnings.
Talk about that in my house first on the section, because I can't be getting in trouble for no bullshit.
Right. So everybody have a safe night. Hey, you guys be safe out there. We got COVID, as well as we got people out here just hunting people. So you guys stay safe. And we appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you next go around.